Hi, I'm AJ Plank, designer of Nevermind The Distraction. In this video, we'll look at Stage 4, A Deep Breath, and Stage 5, Can't Shake the Feelings. These are presented as one video because these stages are closely related to each other. So far, these advanced stages have only given the mind a chance to make your life more difficult. Now, it's finally your turn. Stage 4 unlocks an advanced watcher action called a deep breath, which is essentially a little push-your-luck minigame with the potential for making big changes to the state of the consciousness grid. Let's get to the table and learn the new watcher action, the deep breath. If you've been playing the game this long, at some point you've probably asked yourself, why are there 3 center cards? What are the colored-in dots on the mind cards? And why is a game that's so simple to play so hard to explain? Well, now you'll learn at least 2 of the answers of those questions. For Stage 4, you'll play the game normally for the first several rounds. Then, the first time that you shuffle the mind deck, you'll choose whether or not to add one of your center cards to the deck. You don't have to, so you could leave them in the center if you wanted, but if you choose to, you can shuffle them in with the rest of the mind cards. Then you'll continue to play the game normally. At some point, the breathe card is revealed on a mind phase action, and this is where you'll decide whether or not you take a deep breath. The deep breath requires at least 1 released card on the grid. So if you don't have any released cards, you cannot take a deep breath. When the breathe card is revealed, if you choose not to take a deep breath, or if you cannot, you'll play the mind action normally, take your next watcher action, and then discard the breathe card and keep it in the mind deck, which essentially gives you a free turn. However, when the breathe card is revealed, if you have a released card in the grid and you choose to take the mind action, you'll remove the breathe card from the game, take the mind action as normal, and then choose a released card to start the deep breath on. You'll take the awareness from that card and move it to the breath, similar to a focus action. Next, you'll count the number of awareness markers on the grid, excluding the one in the center. In this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 awareness markers in our consciousness. We can draw up to that many cards from the mind deck in order to take the deep breath action. This is the inhale. I'm going to choose 4 instead of the full 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you draw them face down without revealing them. Once you've drawn all of the cards that you're going to, you reveal them by flipping them the same direction and laying them out. Once you've revealed all of the cards in your deep breath action, each one is played individually using a 2-step process. For step 1, there are a few different possibilities that we'll go over right now. First, look at the mind focus like you normally would when playing the game. If the mind focuses on a card that has an awareness marker on it, a deep breath action is triggered on this card. If the awareness marker is on a distraction, then time passes like it normally would on a distraction. However, if the awareness marker is on a card that's released, the watcher can take any notice or acknowledge action anywhere on the grid. So in this case, we could notice this card. Finally, if the mind focus is on a card that has no awareness marker on it, then that card is discarded. You'd skip step 2 and move on to the next card. Step 2 of playing a card during the deep breath action is where things get interesting. We'll finally get to learn what these colored in dots are on the mind cards. This is called the noting focus. And what you do is look at the type of noting token indicated at that location. In this case, it's a thinking token. And you'd compare it to the token at the location of the mind focus, in this case, a feeling token. If the token types match, that card gets flipped directly to a thought. In this case, they do not match, so that would not happen. However, in this case, the token at this location, which is anticipating, matches the anticipating token at this location. So when playing this card, this release card would get moved to a thought. So there is an opportunity for good or bad things to happen during a deep breath, as either distractions or release cards could get moved to thought as part of step 2. Each card must be played fully, both steps 1 and 2, before moving on to the next card. So let's look at what that would look like. For this card, is there an awareness marker on that location? No, there is not. Step 2 is skipped, that card is discard, and you move on to the next card. Does this location have an awareness marker on it? Yes, it does. It's a distraction. So time passes. Step 2, look at this noting token and compare it to this one. This is thinking, this is feeling, nothing happens, this card is done, discard it, move on to the next card. This one. Is there an awareness marker at this location? Yes, there is. The watcher can take a notice or an acknowledge action on any card on the grid. So we'll notice that one. Now, does the token at this location match the token at this location? This is remembering, this is anticipating. They don't match, this card is done. For this card, is there an awareness marker at this location? There is. The watcher can take another notice or acknowledge action. You know what? I think I'll acknowledge this one. Does the noting token at this location match the one at this location? This is anticipating, this is anticipating. Yes, they do. In this case, this release card would flip straight to a thought. Step 2 is complete. The cards in your deep breath hand can be played in any order, and actually deciding which order to play them in is a big part of the deep breath action. Now we'll look at how the deep breath action could be improved by choosing a different order for these cards to be played in. We'll start with this card. For step 1, is there an awareness marker on that location? No, there isn't. Step 2 is skipped. That card is discarded. And really, that doesn't change no matter what order this card is played in. So we'll get that out of the way now. For the second card, is there an awareness marker on this location? There is, and it's a distraction, which would cause time to pass. However, if we choose to play this card next, is there an awareness marker on this location? There is. It's released. So the watcher gets a notice or acknowledge action, and we can choose to notice that card knowing what's coming. Process step 2, do the tokens in these two locations match? No, they don't. So nothing happens there. That card is discarded, and we move on to the next card. Now we'll look at this card. Is there an awareness marker on that location? No longer. It's not there anymore, so this card is discarded and not used, basically blocking an additional time passing during this deep breath action. Finally, the last card, is there an awareness marker on that location? Yes, there is. So we take another notice or acknowledge action. We'll go ahead and take this one. Process step 2, do the tokens in these two locations match? Unfortunately, yes, they do. They're both anticipating. So this previously released card gets flipped to a thought. And you can see how there's a little bit of a push your luck element to the deep breath action. Sure, we were able to take multiple notice actions in one turn, but unfortunately, we did lose a release card. So this may affect your choice of how many cards to draw during the initial parts of the deep breath action. For the final cleanup stage of the deep breath, you would move your awareness on the breath back to the card that it came from, and time passes during a deep breath action. Then you would draw the next mind card and continue playing the game normally. You must keep at least one center card in the middle of your consciousness grid, or else you suffocate. So only 2 deep breath actions can be taken per game. A quick little side note about the deep breath. This is one of those places where we've taken some artistic license with the principles of meditation for the sake of gameplay. In an actual meditation, you should never force a deep breath or really any specific kind of breath. The idea is to observe the breath, not influence it. So take this watcher action with a little grain of salt. I mentioned before that stages 4 and 5 are related. In stage 5, can't shake the feelings, the mind gets its chance to adjust to your new skill set. Your feelings are about to make things interesting. Once you've made it through stage 4 and have a good handle on how the deep breath works, a new exception is unlocked at stage 5 regarding the feeling tokens. Now, once a card with a feeling token becomes a distraction, it's blocked from the watcher's normal notice action, so can't be acted on normally. This card will stay a distraction until a successful deep breath action is used on it. You still only have 2 deep breaths to use each game, so how you plan for this becomes an interesting challenge. And that's it for the advanced stages, for now. We hope to continue to add new and interesting stages to keep the game growing with your abilities. You can sign up for our mailing list at nevermindcardgame.com or follow us on BoardGameGeek to be notified when additional game stages or distraction packs are released. Finally, stick around for the next video where we'll see all 5 stages in action in a full game playthrough, including all rules to date. Until then, never mind the distractions and don't forget to breathe.